So, once again, welcome and thanks for joining us. The reason that we're here today is to hear from Michael de Podesta, who is very experienced. He's retrofitted his own home and he's here to talk to us about that experience. But just to emphasize how we got here. So, over the last 2 years, we've been working on the Green Skills Academy Hub, which is one of the mayoral academy hubs established as part of the London Recovery Programme. And through that work and through that journey, we identified that retrofitting South London would not be insignificant. We commissioned a piece of work that identified that in order for us to fulfill all the interventions that need to happen on the 365,000 properties across Southwest London, it would require somewhere around 66,000 person years. That's not jobs, but that's a significant number of person years to actually deliver the net zero ambitions and decarbonise our homes across Southwest London. We identified an opportunity with the Greater South East Net Zero Hub, funded by the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, to begin some retrofit skills pilots. And part of those skills pilots is helping and supporting people towards their retrofit journey. So, supporting our residents, our businesses, and our trades, our training and education providers to come together to help fulfill some of those retrofit challenges, but more importantly, opportunities. So, you don't want to hear from me. So, without further ado, I will hand over to Michael, but there will be an opportunity to ask and answer any questions, but also please do use the chat. But as I say, thanks for joining us and I'll hand over.
Okay, I'm just beginning the technology of sharing screens.
Perfect. It's working. Thank you.
What wonderful. Okay, so this is a picture of me. This is my back garden of my retrofitted house in Teddington. And this is the experience of being retrofitted. So these are the works that I have had done to my house. Now, when I think Polly said that I had retrofitted my own home, this is not true. I've employed all kinds of contractors and installers to retrofit my home. But what I have done is I've spent a lot of my money. This is how much money I have spent personally. This is when I retired, I had a pile of money and I wanted nothing but to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. And that's been largely successful. So the carbon dioxide emissions from this house have gone down by 80%, 4.5 tons per year back in 2019, down to 0.8 tons per year currently. So that's pretty good. But it's a lot of money and it's a lot of work. And the reason I mention these things is this, because to achieve that 3.7 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, it's cost a lot of money, a lot of time. But to achieve net zero emissions, if for the UK or for South London, as people were saying, every home is going to need some fraction of this. And the experience of the people who are going to be the subject of this work is important in making things run well. So normally when I give talks, I talk about the technical aspects of retrofit, specifications, costs, measurements you can make, and the significance in the face of the climate crisis. But in this talk, I want to talk about the emotional aspects of this work. I want to talk about what it feels like, from the heroes of the story, if you like. And I feel very uncomfortable even talking about this, because my instinctive reaction is just to get down to the, well, it doesn't really matter. Once it's all over, it'll all be fine. But actually, I think the experience of being retrofitted is actually critical to the success of the endeavor. So this is an attempt to talk about that. So what we have is a drama, and I unveil to you the drama, the experience of being retrofitted. And here is the cast of players. Here are our heroes. The heroes are the homeowner and the installer. And the narrative is driven by hope and uncertainty. In intellectual terms, the dialectic, where people wanting a better thing, trying to do the right thing, and installers earning a living, facing but also installers are they're the shock, they're the crack troops at the forefront of our battle against climate change. So it's an incredibly dramatic story. Now, the homeowner and the installer, the heroes, are not the only people present in this drama. Other characters come in and add character to what's going on. The first, of course, is our good earth that provides us with everything we need for our lives, and as you may have heard, is in trouble, and its distress adds some of the drama to this narrative. There's the government, of course, and the things they say affect lots of things in the drama. There are quangos, and I've heard quite a few funny names mentioned just in the introduction there I didn't recognize, that also have their things to say. And there is the local councils, who again, that their stance affects what goes on between the installer. So quangos are organizations to which the government has devolved power, but which is still partly controlled or financed by government bodies. So they're sort of government, but not government. And then finally, there is the other homeowner. So I've drawn this with a gendered depiction here. That's my wife popping up behind me, as she so often does. And but it could be the other way around. But typically in these things, one person out of a partnership is driving it, and the other person has their own views. So these are the characters in our retrofit drama. And the thing I want to say at the start is that everyone in this drama is doing their best from their own perspective. Aside from the double glazing salesman from Everest, I haven't met anyone throughout my 5 years of doing this who has unworthy motives. But for our heroes, it often doesn't feel like this. It doesn't feel that all the cast, as it were, is trying to help. So I'm going to go through the cast and just show you a couple of quotes that might indicate how they impact on the drama. So here's the good earth. If you keep putting carbon dioxide into my atmosphere, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to keep feeding you. In case things go wrong, have you got anywhere else to stay? This drama could not be more dramatic. The threat of what we're facing is unprecedented in history. Here's the government. And so the government are probably saying, please join the queue of people telling us what we absolutely must do. That would involve spending money on the health service, the military, police, homes, the NHS. And they're saying we're giving out £7,500 for every heat pump installation, and you want us to do more? So £7,500 is a meaty sum, and it really does change the playing field. So it's a good point. But sometimes you've also got people just saying things to change the national mood. So you've got members of government criticizing the government's own stance on net zero just to for some political stuff that's going on. And then local government, from my experience, they've got no money, so they can't really help directly. Maybe some of the things people have said is that people are trying to work out how to reach net zero. But my experience for the last 5 years is they've got no idea. and they like to leave planning rules ambiguous, so that they can always change their mind if they want to, which puts our heroes in a state of uncertainty. Installers have got to do what is dictated to them, otherwise they won't get grants and they won't get work. It's often very difficult to chat with potential clients about their worries, because I've got to do 2 more installations this week, or I've got other work to do. I've got to do the tack. And then we have our heroes. So the homeowner is trying to do the right thing, but he's worried about something. For example, his heat pump won't keep his wife warm, will annoy the neighbors, will break some council rule. And very concerned about who can he trust? And why is this so hard? And then homeowner number 2 just thinks, I've lost shelves in my porch. I hope he doesn't make a mess of the house. This is his thing. It's not their thing. So here are the characters in the retrofit drama. And those are some of the things that are going on around this drama. So we're going to just pull out on those ones and go into my experience. So I think I've been talking, Georgina, I've been talking for about 10 minutes now. Is that right?
Yes, well, just over, but keep going. This is brilliant. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. So this is just some things about my experience in the different retrofit parts. So the first thing was triple glazing. And this was actually delightfully easy. So in terms of problems, there were no problems. It was very easy. We went to a shop. The shop gives the appearance of permanence. The pricing was straightforward, except we asked Everest for pricing, and there the man that came round was like a caricature of a dodgy salesman. It was full of oh, my boss has got a special offer on this week. And anyway, it was absolutely appalling. And so I was shocked such tactics still go on in the UK. And I thought it all went pretty well. Installations were straightforward, on time. This is our front door. This is you see, we've got a porch there. And they put in this lovely door here, which replaced an old door, which was dark and horrible and leaked. Really improved the house. But my wife, she hates that door. I don't know why. I don't know why. She still mourns the loss of the old horrible door. Why do I mention it? It's part of the drama. It's part of the things going on while installers are installing. So let's take a look at external wall insulation. Now, at the top corner, I don't know if you can see, this was done in COVID times. We just had the first wave and we were coming into the second wave. Just made everything hard. So this was a big installation. It was 8 weeks work, lots of mess, lots of fear and uncertainty about this. Very few people encourage you to have external wall insulation. I didn't know if I was making a disaster, devaluing the property. I didn't know if the council would come back to me and say, you've changed the look of the building. Could be. I was very worried that this was much nearer to Grenfell, and so putting anything on your house, you wonder if there's some disaster going to happen. The company that put it on no longer exists. They did very good work. They worked like Trojans on it. It's incredible. I was really impressed. But if something goes wrong with it now, there's nobody. There's nobody to. No guarantees of any kind. And I think it makes my house look really nice. People passing say it looks really nice. My wife says she preferred the house the way it was before. So solar PV. So this was hoping for free electricity. fearing that it could be a waste of money, or again that the council could come back because they've got our guidelines about where the solar panels can go. Again, done in COVID times. This the main problem here was don't know why the installer didn't install pigeon protection, and I didn't think to ask. So now I've become the nutty old man firing a water pistol at pigeons to get them off my roof. It's and my wife, she doesn't like the way the installation looks on our flat roof. She approves the front of the house, but not the way it looks on our flat roof. And of course, that's what she reflects on. She reflects on what's not right about it, not what is right. The battery was again installed in COVID times, very expensive. Lots of uncertainty whether it's really going to work, because back then there weren't many battery suppliers. So I was worrying, this is very expensive, I hope it works. My wife, it takes up space in our porch and it has a green light. I spoke to her last night. This battery has a beautiful light. I really like it. It's really stylish. But apparently for several years now, my wife has been just annoyed by the green light. And then the heat pump. So again, there were only £5,000 grant when we had the heat pump put in, hoping for a warm home. Will this really work? Again, this was COVID affected, and it was very difficult getting people to come to the house. Getting any contractors to even bid for the work was very difficult. And there was real uncertainty about how well it would work. Would it work at all? Real uncertainty. My wife, it takes up space by the bikes and cools my herbs. So I should point out, so these are over here on the right there, that is the herbs growing. When we had the heat pump put in, there were no herbs. So she's planted them in the cool place, but she still resents the heat pump for making it cool. So the summary for homeowners is this: retrofit, and I've talked to lots of homeowners now because I give talks. Retrofit is still harder than you might reasonably expect, and at times you will feel bewildered. All the messages coming to you, perhaps I should have added the media up at the top there. We've got the earth, the government, quangos, the council. But the thing I would say to homeowners, if you're listening in, is that the installers are the heroes of this drama too, along with yourself. And they have a tough job to do. Many of the installers I know are earning a living doing this. I don't know any of them that are minting it and just living the life of Riley. They're working very hard. And the summary for installers is that your customers are finding this hard. Be kind. And everything you can do to reduce the uncertainty about what a homeowner experiences will reap benefits. So that is the end of this drama, the experience of being retrofitted. And so we close the curtains on it, and the end. Okay, so Georgina, I've taken 15 minutes, a bit more than 15 minutes. Is that okay to just open things up to discussions?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Polly, I don't know if you wanted to come in and say something as a start.
Yes,
I have a few questions.
Certainly. So I think I definitely do. So, I think from that we can glean that retrofit is tough and that there are elements of it that's tough. But obviously you've been very driven to getting your house in order. So, and whilst it has been tough, I just wanted to hear some of the benefits that it's brought, not to you, kind of, economically, but you've had the drive to do it. So what's the impact been on you and what's it brought to you?
Uh, yeah, I didn't mention that. So the benefits are the carbon dioxide reductions. Uh, that's the big thing. And so if you factor that in over my lifetime, I have a planning on dying when I'm 80, and over that time I will have saved about 80 tons of emissions. So that's my motivation. Now I should also say, and this may surprise you, is that the impact on uh, the impact on our bills is very dramatic. I don't know what people, I've kind of lost track of what a normal bill would be nowadays. It's been a very turbulent few years, but I think somebody in my house would be expecting to pay about £3,000 a year, something like that, for gas and electric bills. In this house, my bills are, this year will be less than £300 for the year. So it's insane savings. Basically, bills I just don't think about them at all. So that's a very, very big benefit. Very, very big benefit.
And I guess the other question for me is how would someone start to go about things, and is there an order in which someone might, particularly, you've converted it's not a modern build, but particularly in southwest London, we've got lots of heritage properties, lots of Victorian semis. What are is there an increment of things that our residents should be thinking
Uh, it depends on the person and uh, their motivations. If their motivation is uh, to save carbon, then the first thing they should do is install a heat pump. That will save the biggest amount of carbon in the fastest possible time. I'd encourage people to do draft proofing in their homes before they do that, but I wouldn't encourage anyone except a hardcore carbonista to do external wall insulation. It's a big job. As you say, they've got heritage properties, and people are very, very worried about affecting the value of their home is the main thing, and the heritage thing is a big part of that. And so, but if someone, the gateway drug for retrofit is home solar with a battery, because you just save a ton of money. So you need to have the cash up front. But so in Richmond, there are a lot of people who have a lot of money in savings accounts, and so spending £10,000 on or £15,000 on a solar installation will transform your bills, but also it changes how people think. At the start, people begin to people don't want to think about energy. They just want to switch stuff on and do stuff in this kind of is portrayed as normal life. But when you have solar, you begin to think about when the sun rises and when it sets. You begin to think about the orientation of your house towards the universe, towards the cosmos, and you begin to think, do you know what? If I did the tumble drying during the day, it would be cheaper, and you begin to think about energy in a different way. And this really focuses you on, so enables other things going. So I think it would depend on the person. If the person's focused on carbon, they won't save much money with a heat pump. But if they have a heat pump, solar, and a battery, like I have, they can save a ton of money.
Georgina?
So thank you. So Michael, I think it's some really interesting thoughts and provocative thoughts that you've got here about motivations, and obviously your background and your kind of personal interest about reducing your carbon emissions is is brilliant. And I love the fact that you talk about your wife having very different motivations. And this is one of the things that sometimes we battle with, about language and triggers and what's going to work with different audiences. And I think you've brought that really helpfully to life. And there'll be lots of other Mrs. de Podestas around the region.
There is
And and therefore, in terms of overcoming some of the barriers, so what sort of routes do you think are more effective to explore? So around comfort and home upgrades and those sorts of, what do you think is what do you think would help overcome those sorts of barriers?
Uh, I think like I said, the uncertainty and fear pervades all these things before you do them. People are very uncertain; they don't know what they're going to get. So the glazing was the exception to that. We pretty much knew what we would get, but for you just don't really know what you're going to get. So if installers or if the council can have examples of people that look like whoever it is you're trying to address. So if you have a bloke saying, forgive the gender stereotype, if you have a bloke saying, oh yeah, it's fantastic, I've reduced the bills by this much, and the wife saying, yeah, I can put the tumble dryer on anytime and not worry about it. Forgive the gender stereotypes, but people talking about it and their experiences, and just that it's just part of life. Just so things do shift, the perspective does shift. You do think, where's the battery? What level is the battery at before you do things? But something I don't think about is it's cold today, should I turn the thermostat up? The house is never cold. It's always comfortable, and that's just the way heat pumps operate. So it changes things. So we've got to communicate with people, have people who have had the experience talk about it. Also, talking with installers, their stories of problems they've encountered and how they've solved them, it's just really valuable. It spreads it from one installer to another. Each homeowner feels like they're reinventing something. Each installer comes to a new property. What do you do about small terraced houses? What do you do about middle flats? We just need examples of good solutions and mentioning the good experiences that people have had, as well as the difficulties.
Thanks. And I'm going to bring Matthew in just 1 second, but there was a question in the chat that Georgina put, and I'd like to ask that, and then I'll bring Matthew in. Did you have any coordination support in identifying the right trades, the right interventions? Because you've talked a little bit about trades and installers. Did you have any support to find those right installers and to give you advice on what to do next?
No.
So you've done it all yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help from Twitter, actually.
Brilliant. And Matthew.
Yeah, hi. I'm a architectural designer, and I specialize in retrofit of traditional heritage buildings. I've been doing that since 2006 when I first got involved, but there just wasn't any traction. I moved away to commercial property and so on. Just in the last 4 or 5 years, the concerns over unintended consequences of retrofit, particularly for neighboring properties and things like that, have really started to sort of put the brakes on some of the ambition. Or there's too many problems, we can't possibly roll out this at scale, we don't know enough, all those sorts of concerns. Did you find any issues with the local authority, if you had to get any permissions for what you were doing, and B, with your neighbours?
No, I haven't. So the local authority haven't come back on anything. So the heat pump was installed. It's sort of round the back of the house. I figured nobody would even know about it, actually. uh, and I've actually made videos of myself by the heat pump where I've been disturbed by the really loud noise of my neighbour's gas boiler above. I had people around, so I had people around from a very nice road in Richmond. They're very worried about. They want heat pumps. They're crazy about it, but they're very worried. They're beautiful Art Deco properties, and they really uh, they cherish them. And they came round to an elderly couple. I think he would be late 70s perhaps, and they came round to listen to the heat pump switch on. And his wife looked at him as if to say, "Is that it? Is that what we've been worried about?" So I don't know if you can find a way. So I put my home on the visitorheatpump.com site. Perhaps you can have links to that on the council website as a way of just allowing people to experience what the noise is. And people don't experience the noise of their gas boilers because generally when the boiler's on, they're inside. And so the unexpected other consequences might have been, you know, there's a mismatch in the of 13 centimeters at the front of the house between, but actually, unless I point it out to people, nobody notices. Nobody notices.
It's the one of the concerns. Sorry, if you don't mind, can I follow up?
Oh, please do.
One of the concerns that in you know some of the training that I've done over the last few years is that there's this thermal displacement. So if you have your facade here and then the neighbouring facade there, there's a cold bridge potentially coming into their property. I mean, is there an insurance concern that you've encountered?
Oh, bridge coming into their property. I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
I mean, so basically, when you put external, are you talking about external wall insulation?
Yeah, because you're changing the heat dynamic of how heat flows.
Right. So for example, you can't put. I see Andrew's there. We talked about this. You can't just put a little bit of external wall insulation over a little bit of wall you'd like to keep warm, because, as you say, the heat will flow around it. But if you put, so ours is attached to a neighbor, and if you put, so we have external wall insulation on, basically that raises the temperature of all the brickwork. Near the join, it won't raise it as much, but basically all the brickwork in the house gets hotter. And so Andrew and I were just talking last night about what this does for condensation, which is a concern. And basically this pushes the condensation outside the insulation. It's almost impossible to get condensation in the brick.
Oh, is it a cavity wall?
There's no cavity. Well, we've got all kinds of walls on the house, but the main front and back of the house are solid brick. And by putting the insulation on, all the brickwork in the house rises to something close to the temperature of the rooms in the house. And so condensation, I don't really see how external wall insulation can lead to condensation problems. You know, I could be wrong, but I did calculations on it and it seemed to be okay.
Yeah, it's just I flag it because it's certainly a concern within the industry.
The thing that you flag there is that people are worried about it. Yeah. So people are worried about noise, and you know, it's not unreasonable to be worried about something if you don't know about it. And it's this uncertainty. So it's very difficult in any particular situation to come to it blind without either a great deal of prior knowledge or some very specific calculational ability, and say it won't be a problem or it will be a problem. So this is again a case where if the council had examples of properties where this had been done, and they could say, we were worried this was going to be a problem, but because of this, it wasn't a problem, or in order to alleviate this, we did this. These examples of good behavior. Otherwise, I'm sure in your business, Matthew, you're just meeting every challenge being a unique challenge, and you can't bring something that you've done before to bear on it. You bring your experience, but each one you have to deal with individually. And if we're going to do 300, I wrote it down somewhere, 365,000 homes, it's going to take more than 66,000 man years. So
yeah, can I just say, no one has ever come to me and asked for a retrofit. People come to me and ask for extensions, renovations, and it's that point where I start to introduce the idea of retrofit, energy efficiency, comfort, health, well-being, and carbon savings, because carbon savings doesn't sell it to most people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that Matthew's a really key point, and something that we spent a lot of time talking about, the language around retrofit and actually how we support the sector, being construction, engineering, the built environment, to think and speak slightly differently, but also us as a collection of local authorities, how we use the term retrofit. And actually, yes, it's the health impact, the impact on cost efficiency, and the impact, you know, on emissions. So it's a really good point. I think this will be our last question, Andrew, or comment.
Hi, sorry, just to can you hear me? Yeah, so just a very quick point. I mean, I've studied and trained in the whole retrofit business, retrofit coordinator, retrofit assessor, domestic energy assessor, etc., etc. I've never ever heard of this issue of affecting a neighbour's heat loss. I don't know where that comes from. I've never heard it from an installer or an EWI installer, or and it's just a mystery to me. There are so many questions and worries that people have. I'm just surprised that I heard that one there at that point. Just to say that's my experience anyway. I've never heard that before.
It came to me, sorry, from Professor John Edwards, who wrote Past 2035, co-authored it.
Well, I'm very surprised he didn't put it in his course, because I've done the whole course and it never got mentioned in any part of that. So
did you do the traditional buildings course?
Well, I mean, as a registered retrofit coordinator, I was never told about this. Maybe that's why I've just resigned from doing it, because it's all these issues come up so many times about worries and problems.
And I think there's a note definitely for us to how we start to catalogue some of these, and as we try and tackle some of the myth busting, but have really appreciated, Michael, your honest reflection on your journey to retrofit, and it really will help us in terms of how we need to plan and prepare and support our particularly our homeowners, but also our, you know, trade stakeholders to support in our ambitions. That's it from us and from me. Just a massive thank you, Michael, for your time today, and thank you for all your expertise and knowledge, and thank you to everyone for coming and your contributions. And I think that's all I need to say. Is that right, Georgina? Yeah, brilliant. So thank you, everyone, and we'll hope to cross paths again very shortly. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.